Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. Tonight, we have a great show for you guys. We have Dr. Cedric Brown with us to give insight about his new hiring, and then we're going to talk about college football and what's going on with that. So let's get started.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And let's bring in Dr. Cedric Brown. So I'm really excited for this conversation. Dr. Cedric, welcome. Thank you for being on the show. How are you doing this evening?
Doing well, Jasmine. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing well. So let's just get started. Let's talk about your background. How did you get to this position, being director at Lewis and Clark Community College? How did this start for you?
Well, it all started when as a student athlete, wanting to move on further in with athletics and being a part of it and having an opportunity to make an impact, and went from student athlete to assistant coach at the junior college level, basketball at Parkland College in Champaign, Illinois. And then from there, had an opportunity to go to South Dakota State University as a graduate assistant under Scott Nagy. And then just moved on from there in different spots, Chicago State University, Trinity Valley Community College. Then I went to Lakeland College as a head coach, was there for 7 years and had an outstanding staff for that time. And we were able to be successful and send about 27 student athletes to Division I and Division II schools. From there, went to Mineral Area College and worked with Corey Tate, who's now the associate head coach at St. Louis University. And we took that team, that 14-15 team, to the national tournament in Hutchinson, Kansas. And then from there, wanted to get my degree. My mother, Patricia Brown, always wanted me to, when you going to go get your doctorate degree? So I went to school to finish that and then went into athletic administration, and then had an opportunity to have jobs where I went out to New Jersey for a stint. Then I was back in St. Louis, came to here to Pittsburgh, and finishing up my second year at Winchester Thurston School as director of athletics here. And we've been blessed and fortunate here. My wife, Linda, and I, we won a state championship this year with the boys soccer team. And then last year won 2 WPIAL championships and competed for a WPIAL championship this year in women's basketball. So overall, even though we were a small program, did a very good job of competing and in the independent school league school that we're in, and then we're in the league with some heavy hitters here in Pittsburgh. So
that is a huge track record. And you mentioned your faith and different things like that before we got on. Throughout this whole process, throughout your journey, how has your faith benefited you? And how, being that you said you had a praying mom, how does that really, how did that feel? How did that motivate you throughout this whole process?
Well, my family, I've been around holiness and faith my entire life. And from my great grandmother, who started our church, a little small church in Murfreesboro, Illinois. And then my grandfather, William, he had our church in his home. And so we started from very humble beginnings, and always knew that my mom always preached, you never put God on the back burner. You put him in the forefront. And when you put him up front, good things happen for you. And so as I was trying to leave the interscholastic field of athletics and go to the intercollegiate athletics field, it was tough. It's been tough, for the last, I would say, 60 days or so, because I've done probably 20 interviews over the last 60 days and filled out 75 applications for intercollegiate athletics. And I was just out at Towson University, and I was one of the finalists for a position at Towson University, and working, went out there with them and my wife and I, and didn't get the job. But my mom, again, a praying mom, and I know my
Yep.
mom is watching right now. She goes into that prayer closet and sit down, get on her knees, and has a conversation with God, and things work out. And her prayer was that her son comes back closer to home, and
Right.
God gave her the word that I had the job, but she didn't tell me. She wanted
Mm.
me to tell her so that God would get all the glory for the opportunity that He's given me. So faith is a big part of our life.
Right. Amen to that. And I have that experience too. Like I have a strong praying family from my grandmothers. One of them is no longer here, but my mom, my dad, obviously they like we are very devoted in our faith and we're very serious about that because without God, we can't be who we want to be and who he wants us to be and be successful in life. So I'm 100% behind that. And plus I go to a college now at Warner University, who is a strict Christian school. So we get a lot of activities involving um, learning about God, getting closer to Him, building a connection with Him, and also just reading our Bible and getting used to that and being around each other and just learning about Him together. But back to you, being at Lewis and Clark, how important is community colleges? Like we always look at the big D1s, D2s, and those big schools like that, but people overlook the community colleges. How big are they and how valuable are they?
They're seminal to the maturation of individuals, both coming out of high school or non traditional students that are leaving the workforce to better themselves,
Right.
to maybe have go from an associate's degree to a bachelor's degree so that they can go back into the workforce. Because with I won't say recession right now, but with inflation and everything rising right now, right? And if the cost, if your salaries don't go up, it's hard to stay ahead of the game financially for most families. So community college has always been an opportunity for individuals to um, get their feet wet with school, right? Because you're going to do gen eds if you go to a 4-year school. I mean, to a 2-year school anyway. So you get an opportunity to find out what college life is like. Because sometimes if you're living on campus, mom and dad are no longer there to
Hmm.
wake you up, make sure that you're going to class or going to school and things like that. But it's a seminal, important part of any type of educational experience. And there's a stigma about 2-year schools, right? There's a stigma.
Yeah.
Well, if you
Hmm.
go to a 2-year school, that's not as good of a degree, or you're not going to be taught as well by instructors. Well, I was an instructor at a 2-year school while I was the
Hmm.
head coach at Lakeland College, and um, we had a 98% graduation rate when I was there, because I had
Right.
a academic coordinator
Phenomenal.
that was a phenomenal individual that made sure that our student athletes went to class. And I was just talking to some of my former student athletes and my son today on Facebook, and they were talking about the 5 a.m. breakfast club that Coach Brown had. If you missed class, if you didn't turn in an assignment, you had to be at a 5 a.m. breakfast club. And so it's an important part, and I am so thrilled and blessed to once again be at Lewis and Clark Community College as a trailblazer, and now I'm able to do what I believe is my calling, is to be a servant leader for the student athletes at Lewis and Clark Community College.
Absolutely. And personally, I took when I was in high school, I did take a course at a community college, SPC, and both of my parents did go to SPC, which is at our community college here in Clearwater. And we do have a comment. Where is Lewis and Clark Community College, and how long have you been there?
It's in Godfrey, Illinois. It's about 20 minutes outside of St. Louis, Missouri. And I was there at from 2015 to 2018 as the assistant men's basketball coach under Doug Stotler. And I'm returning as the director of athletics this year. And officially, I'm starting August 1st. But when the board announced me last Tuesday, I hit the ground running. So I've been working behind the scenes to help the interim AD and my staff make sure that everything's running smoothly. So in the middle of August is when our fall sports will begin.
And that's going to be very exciting because I'm so ready for, we're going to get college football back, college, and just a lot more stuff starting to kick in. So it's going to be very exciting. And again, congratulations to that. That's a big deal. And then of course, you have the experience, you had the whole journey to get to that point. So it's amazing. And based off, and then through it all, God was there, so that's just a phenomenal story. And like you said earlier, you talked about just a little bit before we go to the next segment about, Arizona University. They are giving you a success story based off of with your journey. So explain that, and how do you feel about them giving that to you, where you got your doctorate from?
Right. So right after I announced that I was getting the job on Wednesday, I believe it was, and how I got in contact with Mr. Leon was that he saw on the post that I said, I'm announcing this, and first of all I want to give honor to my Lord and Savior for the blessings that he's giving me, and so that's how I got in contact. Well, Mr. Leon got in contact with me, and so I was today on my email as I'm in the house trying to get everything packed up. I get an email from the University of Arizona Global Campus, and it says, Dr. Brown, we saw that there was a story about you, that you just accepted a position as the director of athletics at Lewis and Clark Community College. We want to run a success story on you because, you're an alum now of the school. And so at me, always, the things come over the internet, I had to check it out. So I wanted to verify, right? Trust, but verify that it was who it was. And the individual that sent me the information, she said, yes, it's real. And so we saw the article, I believe it was in the Telegraph, which is a paper there in Alton, Illinois. And they wanted to do a story. And like I told my mother today, you never know how God is going to work and what doors he opens. And so, that 60 days that I was going through those things, it was a storm, right? And
Yeah.
my favorite story in the Bible is when Jesus told the disciples to gather their things, that they're going to the other side, right?
Yep.
And so if we literally listen to the word of Jesus and the things that he says, that they were going to go to the other side, right? So he didn't say we're going to go and we're going to drown in the middle. We're going to the other side. And so there are going to be times that, we're going to go through trials and tribulations. We're going to go through hard times, but you just got to know, Jesus was asleep in the boat on a pad. And the reason why
Yes.
he was asleep in the boat in that piece is because he made water, he made wind, he made lightning and thunder. Why would he be afraid? Right. And so
Absolutely.
I tease my mom all the time because Peter is a funny guy. Peter is a hot mess. Peter always had a question. He always had something to talk about. And Peter's like, Lord, wake up. Don't you see that we're about to drown? And he said, Peter, calm down. Right.
Right.
And so during that time that I was going through this, I kind of got down and it was testing my faith a little bit. And my mom, once again, Evangelist Brown, she says, listen, this is just a season. It's a storm. It's going to pass. It's a test, and you're going to pass the test. And then lo and behold, I did. And so now having the opportunity to do things like this, right? And I'll tell a short story. 2005, I'm at the Final Four, and I'm at Sunday non-denominational service, and Joyce Myers is a speaker. Well, as Pastor Myers is speaking, I get the book, buy her book, and go to get it signed. And as I'm getting the book signed, she says, "Son, can I give you a word that the Lord just gave me?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "This that you're doing right now, coaching and things like that, that is a ministry." And she said, "Your ministry in this athletics is not just going to be a local thing, that at some point in time it's going to be a global thing. And I didn't really know what she was talking about at that time, but now that I see that, and I don't know how many people, we're reaching right now as we speak, but being on the internet and things like that, it just comes to fruition to let me know that God is in the plan. I don't know the plan. And they say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans for your life. I don't know what the plans are, but
Right.
we're here, and I have an opportunity to meet a fantastic person like you, Jasmine, and Jay, and your dad, and Jeremiah, and Mr. Leon. So I'm so thankful, and I'm so blessed to be here. So
And I'm blessed to have you on here. And your story, just reading up on it this past week, it was very inspiring. And then hearing you speak and then talking to you like firsthand right now, it shows like God is really working. And it's inspiring to a young person like me who's trying to get into this field, trying to get into the sports industry. And like I said before, without God, we can't make it. And being that we have those strong praying moms, being that we have that foundation like that, that's keeping us going, even though we may feel like sometimes like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make it, this is tough, but moms are there to say, hey,
they are
no,
there.
get back. No, we're
They
not
are
doing
there.
this. So
and I and
it's
I'm fortunate, Jasmine, that I have I have my Aunt Ernestine. She's a praying woman. Mother Austin is like my godmother. She's a praying woman. My Aunt Wanda.
Mhm.
I mean, I have so many strong women in my life, and then my uncles are there. They're preachers and pastors.
Right.
So I just like I tease all the time. I say if I was any more blessed, I'd be twins, right? So I'm thankful and I'm grateful and I'm humbled that these things are occurring for me. And I asked, I said to the Lord as I prayed, I said, listen, whatever job you give me, I want you to use me in the way that is pleasing to you, that I can be of service to you and your kingdom. Take the gifts that you've given me, my education, whatever abilities you've given me, and use those and show me how to use those. And so, it's just, sometimes they say you got to be ready for your blessings because the cup will run over, and sometimes you'll
Mhm.
be overwhelmed. So I'm just thankful.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. I'm thankful.
Absolutely. And I'm thankful to have you here just to hear your story. So thank you, Dr. Cedric. We're going to head to the next segment. We're going to talk about college football and really get into some
Sure.
stuff. But that wraps up the first segment. That was a phenomenal segment. If you guys want to keep up with me, you can go to my website at jasmineonsports.com to keep up with my latest shows, to keep up with past shows, and just if you want to be a guest on my show and give your insight on sports. So we're going to head into a short break, and we're going to be right back with Dr. Cedric, my dad, and Jeremiah to talk college football. So we'll be right back.
Renting is everything. It's style at your doorstep, off the runway and into your closet. It's every trend you've been dying to try and every designer you've yet to discover. It's wearing it your way every time and making it count everywhere you go. It's never worrying about what to wear because something new is always coming your way. That's why renting is everything. New styles, top designers, all for a flat monthly fee. Start your subscription at renttherunway.com.
Slow roasted over hickory fire and pulled by hand. This is the way pit pork has always been done. Pulled pork lovers, rejoice. The smoky old days are back at the Smoke Shack. From the creative team that brought you The Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
You're watching Jasmine Pollock's First Impressions Sports Talk. Be sure to join Jasmine every week for great conversation on the NBA, NFL, and a wide variety of sports topics. To see past episodes of First Impressions Sports Talk, go to YouTube and search First Impressions Sports Talk. You can connect with Jasmine on LinkedIn by searching Jasmine Pollock. And now, back to more First Impressions Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impressions Sports Talk. And the voices you just heard were from Kelly Johnson and Dion Hunter, part of the Leon Thomas Group. And if you want to get voiceover work done, you can go to the leonthomasgroup.com to get voiceover work done and get experience like that. And again, if you want to be on my show, if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, my past episodes and even future episodes, you can go to my website at jasmineonsports.com. So let's get into the next segment. Let's bring everyone in from Dr. Cedric, my dad, and Jeremiah. So this past week, we've seen some interesting things coming out of college football, teams wanting to go to different conferences. The two biggest ones, obviously, is USC and UCLA leaving the Pac-12 to go to the Big Ten. And in 2024, we will see Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC. So, Dad, I want to start with you. What does this mean, and how does this affect the conference play that we've known for so long?
Well, it looks like they're trying to mix it up a little bit, trying to really, I think it's actually a good thing because maybe we'll start to see how some of these teams are fair in these different conferences. Me personally, I know it's a money thing, all the different conferences and different things like that. But for me, I would like to see some of the teams that are sometimes left on the outskirts get involved in some of these bigger tournaments because we see it all, every year where there are some teams that are left out there on the outskirts for whatever reason. And I think it has a lot to do with the alignment. So I'm really anxious to see how this new thing is. It's still not set in stone. I think a lot of the changes don't really come into effect until 2023.
Yes.
And I think this is the last year we're going to see college as is. So I'm really looking forward to how that's going to line up, what matchups it's going to create. And as a football fan, it's just a beautiful thing for me because I can't wait till football starts,
Yeah, I'm ready for football too.
If it was year-round, I'll be good to go. I mean, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to this season. I'm a Noles fan, so there's a lot of expectations from me, but we'll see how that works out.
So, Jeremiah, do you think, being that what my dad said, do you think this is a positive thing?
I believe some way it is a positive because at the end of the day, just like he said, it allows for most teams to actually get a more spotlight. You're going to see the reason that they're going to these different conferences is, of course, money and plus more appearance, more television wise. What's called big national games to be had because at the same time, they don't really pay attention to certain ones that be in certain conferences at certain times. If you're not of a upper echelon or you're not that traditional team, they kind of look over you, or you have to be proving yourself. You see how they do when it comes to the rankings at certain times. They have their certain favorism. So I think when it comes to them switching to the different conferences and everything else, it can be a great thing. But at the same time, is it going to be so many that's going to be jumping ships where you're going to forget about a lot of the underdogs? And then what are we going to have right now? Because it's going to be like a monkey see, monkey do.
To me, I'm like in the middle with this because I'm still trying to see if I'm for it or against it. So I look at it two different ways. So like you guys said, I agree with you guys at the standpoint of, a lot of teams are getting more exposure. They're starting to compete with those big teams like an Alabama or Ohio State, different things like that. But at the same time, what's going to happen to the conferences that they're leaving? Like the Pac-12 is going to get hit very badly. And, these teams are leaving and you're going to huge, big conferences that's been dominating for the past decade. And it's going to hurt the other conference. And then what's the Final Four going to look like? Are we going to extend the playoffs? Are we going to have an 8 bracket instead of the 4 bracket? So there's a lot of questions that come into play because we can't have, let's say, for instance, if Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC in 2024, then of course we know Alabama is going to be around. Are we going to have 3 SEC teams in the top 4? Like it's all a jumble to me. I'm not saying that, they can't work around it, but currently they have been working around it, probably because this last year we saw 2 SEC teams, Georgia and Alabama, in the championship, which I don't agree with. There should be one team from another conference facing another team from the conference, and they have a much bigger bracket. But Dr. Cedric Brown, what is your take on this about these teams jumping ship and going to different conferences?
Well, athletics is a $1 billion industry, right? And so money is driving the bus. And as long as there's money to be made, they're going to try to figure out a way to monetize every single thing that they can do. Playing in the Pac-12 on the West Coast, they play games at 7:00. Well, it's 10:00 on the East.
Right.
So most of the sports talk shows, ESPN and things like that, they're going through the meat of their content, and the Pac-12 is being left out, right? That West Coast. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you have teams like USC and UCLA leaving to go to the Big Ten, because the Big Ten has really dominated college basketball over the last 5 years or so. They're dominating football to the extent that you have teams like Penn State that has had a good run. You have Michigan State that finds a way somehow to, get in the conversation at the end of the year. Ohio State, obviously, Iowa, they're doing a really good job of holding down the Big Ten name. Rutgers is making some noise in the Big Ten. And so as an AD, I put my AD hat on, right? I'm thinking I'm going to take my team from Rutgers, and now I have to go out and play. If we're on the same side with USC or UCLA, I have to take my team across the country to play. And as an AD, I'm also thinking about academics, right? Because to take them out of school to play in a Saturday game, they're probably going to travel Thursday night so they can be there, so they can go through walkthrough, go through pregame and all those things, right? So you're talking about student athletes missing 2 days of class, right? Which is a very important thing because they are student athletes, right? And so, but I agree with your father. It's an exciting time for college athletics, right? And they're fighting the expansion of the football championship series, the football bowl series, I should say. They're fighting that, but you're going to have to go from that number now and expand that number so that, because the money, the bus is going to dictate that.
Right. And I agree with that 100%, because that's another thing. Like, I was thinking, like, how is this going to affect? Because, of course, like you said, they're student athletes first. They'll have to go to class and perform at a high level in order to play. So we're going to definitely see. I know all this stuff is going to take place in 2023. I know Texas and Oklahoma will be in the SEC in 2024. Cool. And I'm very interested in that. So I'm a Gators fan, so I know a lot about the SEC. So I don't know how that would fare. And, of course, recruiting-wise, all that stuff. All that stuff goes in different places. So we're going to head into a final segment, which is called Free for All. And Dr. Cedric, this segment right here, I'm going to state a statement. And this is kind of like a debate period, so we can go back and forth a little bit. I'm going to say a statement, and either you agree with the statement or you disagree with the statement. So I'm going to just throw it out there. FSU is the best Florida college football team out of Gators and Canes. Shoot. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
My goodness. Goodness.
We have a Canes and a Florida State at the bottom of the
But you don't have any here.
So go ahead. Let's talk about it. Go ahead, Jeremiah. You're a Canes fan.
Oh, are we talking about in history, or are we talking about right now?
I'm saying the best team in Florida historically is Florida State.
I would say false. Because just to me, just the greatness of how Miami used to go. Okay, I'm not going to ever front on Florida State. Florida State is, of course, a historic school. going all the
Yes.
way back and having those matchups all the way back, even before Dion and everything else. But Miami, I'm just gonna tell you, when they came into the picture in the 80s to have their own sound to where people is just like, this team is really wants to reckon with, because they was beating traditional schools like Alabama and those other ones, which they got real mad at. And then that's why they have a hatred for Miami right now today. And you go to the 90s and you go to, don't forget about the 2001 Miami Hurricanes
Oh
team.
yeah,
One of the greatest teams to ever form in history. You know, and that's just, I'm gonna rest my piece on that because I can go all in.
Well,
so the comment says it's Florida State. Come on. Well, Dad, go ahead. You're a Florida State fan.
Well, someone said just say one thing. I mean, I'm just going to mention one person and just the type of athlete that Florida State produces. So there's one guy they call Prime, right? So Prime time came from what school? Florida
FSU.
State.
Yes.
So that that's just one player. But you had don't get me wrong. Miami is a storied franchise. Some of your top players have come from there. It's kind of tough because they kind of exchange dominance from time to time. Miami would be dominant, then it was Florida State for a while. And of course, recently in that particular area, then you had Clemson come in and doing what they're doing. But Florida State was the first team that I keyed in on. I really loved Warwick Dunn. I was a big fan of Charlie Ward.
Right.
Peter Ward actually went to school right here, just right across the bridge. So for me, those are guys that I actually met. So when you see that type, those types of athletes and what they were able to do for Florida State, and I just and also a lot of my family's from that area. So that's why I wonder why Jazz is not a Florida State fan, because a lot of her
not at all.
Too. So, but it's just for me. I think put it this way: any Florida team against anybody else, it's all about the Florida teams.
It is absolutely.
When it comes down to the nose against them, a better question would have been about the Gators, because Miami, I don't have as much against them as I do the Gators. But that's that's another.
I have to respectfully disagree with both of you because I am a Gators fan. I bleed orange and blue. So the Gators are the best team in Florida. They currently are the best team in Florida. We have been doing the job. I'm not happy with what's going on. Obviously, we fired our coach.
Well, we're not happy.
I just think, but all three of these teams are phenomenal teams, though. Like, I mean, you could name so many players from each of these franchises. Now, currently, right now, I think the Florida teams have taken a major dip lately. I keep seeing the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Georgias talking, and I'm like, okay, Florida State, where are you? Gators,
we're coming back, though. We're going to get our thing. We're coming back.
I think it will be good for college football if the Florida teams make a run. It just will add more chaos, and it would just add more. And we need to bring back recruiting. A lot of these guys are leaving. They're going to the Ohio States. They're going to the Alabamas and Georgias.
I was just getting ready to say that, Jasmine. I mean, there are athletes in Florida, right? There's athletes in Florida. I mean, I saw a segment on ESPN one time where the athletes were chasing rabbits and trying to and they were actually catching rabbits, right? And so, but what's happening, the change is that all of that, the Ohio States and the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Clemsons, they're coming down to Florida.
Yes.
And they're recruiting your athletes and they're bringing them. And then it doesn't help that name, image, and likeness is out there now.
Absolutely.
So whoever has the biggest name, image, and likeness package and can give these student athletes the money that I believe that they deserved a long time ago when Ed O'Bannon and that lawsuit at UCLA, I believe whoever has that biggest NIL package is going to draw these. So you may not have your wish at Florida, but if I had to say, I would say Florida State, because my brother in athletics, Nate Johnson, he was a point guard. He was a point guard at Florida State back in the day. So I'm gonna say Florida State University.
So Dr. Brown, let me respond to Dr. Brown what he was saying. So I also think what's happened in Florida, if you look at there's something that's taken a shift with their athletic departments.
Yes.
Because if you look at each team, I mean, of course, it knows with Jimbo leaving and different things like that. But if you look at each team, our athletic departments are not where they used to be. And if you're trying to attract the top talent, they look at it as like once you dip down to the lower echelon of the conferences, now it's like, well, Florida State used to be, and that's why when they were talking about Deion Sanders potentially being the coach, now it's not necessarily
which I thought was going to happen. I thought that would have been huge.
Yeah, I thought, well, from the simple fact that what does Deion Sanders bring to that team?
Exactly.
So if you bring him in there, you think your top DBs, you think your top receivers, you think these guys are not going to gravitate because this guy's connected to the NFL, and he's just a larger than life personality, and that's why he's been able to bring top tier athletes to Jackson State. And I think that pretty soon we're going to be talking about Jackson State in another light, depending on how long.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
Because he just put in half of his paycheck and his salary into a new facility for them. Like this.
So they're up and coming. And then not to mention, you remember a few months ago, they had that whole issue with Nick Saban, what he said about them recruiting and different things like that. So Nick Saban obviously is very alert of what's going on up there in Jackson State. So he's not really happy about that because, of course, Nick Saban, he wants the top athletes. You know what Alabama stands for. So we're definitely going to see. I'm rooting for Jackson State. I really love what Deion's doing. And I think it'll be very good for HBCUs as a whole because, and he even talked about, I remember him talking about getting guys like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, those guys to go to other HBCUs and create an atmosphere like that. So that would be huge. But the next statement, the Rams will repeat.
Oh, no.
No.
I think that we all agree with that.
No.
Dr. Cedric, why you say no?
Well, I'm a Giants fan, right?
Yes.
and I don't believe that Danny Dimes is going to help us and Saquon is not going to. We had 2 great draft picks, but you have a fella down there in Florida that I am not a Tom Brady. I'm not a fan of the teams that he's with, but Tom Brady is an outstanding quarterback, and he gets things done. And if Gronkowski comes back out of retirement, which I think he will, if he comes out of retirement and Tom Brady has had the opportunity to work with those young receivers,
absolutely,
it's going to be the same old, and everybody talks about that guy, that cheesehead in Green Bay.
Don't say that. I'm
being this and being that, and I think that Rodgers is a great quarterback and everything, but when Tom Brady is a part of an equation,
yes,
you have to consider him. And so my answer is, Donaldson, Donald got his money. The receiver, he just got his money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When Tom Brady's in the equation, you can't count him out.
So, Jasmine,
you're a Bucks fan, so go ahead.
So here's and I'm also I catch a few of the games every year. So here we go. So with the Bucks, if you look at what we did last year, we've had the same issues for 2 years that Tom Brady was there. It's our defensive backfield. It's been the same issue. It showed its ugly head last year in the playoffs. I knew, and I don't know why other people didn't feel this, I knew Tom Brady was not retiring because there's no way you can be that close. The Bengals were not beating the Bucks in the Super Bowl. So you put a situation like that where we were a play away, a blown coverage away from going to the Super Bowl. And
wait, hold on, Dad. No. That was the divisional round.
No,
they had to go play the.
No, but I'm saying if we got through the Rams, there was nobody stopping us. It's just that
Devo.
That was. Here's the thing you have to look at. We had a depleted team, and we still gave the Rams everything that they can handle with
all the smoke. Mm-hmm. All the smoke. They gave them all the smoke.
So now Tom Brady's like, wait a minute. And guess what? We don't know what some of these new acquisitions the Bucs have brought in this year. We got some pretty good stuff coming in this year, and I think we're going to have even more because we're going to be a little bit more prepared. And now with Bruce Arians kind of taking a back seat, I think we're really going to see things open up because Tom Brady's going to have more control. There's no doubt in my mind because Leftwich, even though he's calling play, he's going to be like Peyton Manning with the Colts. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, I have a question though. So the report came out today that Leonard Fournette, they're not happy with his weight. He's 260 pounds coming to
what?
yeah,
260? I didn't hear.
260.
260 pounds. I mean, having
Yeah,
too
and
much
they're
fun
not
this off
happy with
season.
him. They're not happy with him at all.
Oh,
But
we'll-
but
So,
this is
I
another
don't-
thing for the Rams though. Like they played against terrible old line that teams. Come
Yes.
on. Look
I
at the
don't like the
Bucks.
Rams
They were
at
down to
all.
like what their third string. The Bengals was
Mhm.
down to like,
And the
they
Bengals
just
almost
didn't
had.
have nobody. I'm not even gonna say they had nobody.
Well, you know, if Tom Brady brought Antonio Brown in and had Antonio acting, civilized, long enough to win a Super Bowl, he'll get Fournette into the fold. He'll get him
Yeah.
into the fold, and he'll pull
Mhm.
him in. He'll put him out in the pool house and say, "Look, you're gonna sit here and you're gonna get with my nutritionist, and this is what you're gonna do. So we're gonna win the Super Bowl." So
Absolutely.
I don't think
Yeah.
the Rams are repeating. I do think the Rams have phenomenal players, not saying they don't, but I just feel like they are overhyped a little bit. It's just I'm like, there's so many teams I feel like are better than them.
Mhm.
But of course, it's LA, they have the big stars there, so of course they're gonna push that team in different directions. But I don't think they're repeating
And they lost.
at all.
That was a big deal. They lost Von Miller off that D line.
Yep, I
A
was just about to say.
huge,
A lot of
huge
pressure off of Aaron Donald.
So
Yeah.
exactly, but the thing is, when it comes to the Rams, they're not a run defensive team to me. Like I've seen teams have their way with running the ball. Even Fournette in that game, he had a very good game, and this is supposed to be the number one defense in the league. Now, if you have Aaron Donald 101 as O-line, then I think you're in trouble. But I feel like they're overhyped. That's all I'm saying. I think they're overhyped.
no, they're not going to repeat.
No, that's final. They're not repeating.
We all
But
know.
hopefully, listen. So before we go, Dr. Cedric, my mom is a Giants fan. What do the Giants need to do in order to get back to winning status? To get back
Clean
into
house.
They need to trade the entire defense for Tom Brady, and then they'll be all right.
Yeah.
And I'm a Duke fan, so
Mhm.
Danny Dimes came from Duke, and he was outstanding there. But it's a transition because the game is faster.
exactly.
I played pro football over in Europe, and not in the NFL, but the game is faster from high school to college to even playing where I played at in Europe. It's faster, and if you don't get that to that point, then you're gonna be where the Giants are right now. So, but thank you for having me.
Of course. So hopefully the Giants get together, Mom. You're gonna be fine. It's okay. They're
Mom, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be all right.
But that wraps up the show. Thank you guys so much. That was a phenomenal conversation. Thank you, Dr. Brown. It was very good to talk to you and get to know you. Dad, Jeremiah, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, Leon, for setting things up and keeping things going. Thank you to the audience for staying with me and just believing in me and continue to support. You guys will see me next Monday again for more sports. Who knows what's going to happen? It's something every week, literally. So I'll see you guys next week on Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. Have a good night.